All right, guys. So welcome to the third part of the college application crash course. I'm glad you guys made it tonight. So if you missed part 1 and 2, they were recorded and placed on our YouTube page. And so I will add the link to the YouTube page in the chat. And let me see, actually, I think I may be able to do it right now for you. I'll put that in the chat for you, and you guys can get that at your leisure. And also, I'm going to email you guys anyway with the link to everything. It's all in one big playlist. And so the first night was back in May, right before we left for school. So most of the information that we gave out that night was based on what you guys need to do to get ready for the summer, as far as little bits and pieces that you can cover over the summer to prepare yourselves. Okay. And so basically that consisted of starting to build your college list and getting it down to 6 to 12 schools before we start next week, preferably, to start working on the personal essay. That is going to be one of the most stressful parts of the program or the application process, because no one really likes talking about themselves. And sometimes it's really hard to get started, okay? And then we also talked about some financial aid, and we talked about something called the net price calculator, which we will talk a little bit more about tonight, because I would like you guys to make sure that you actually do this step, is look at the net price calculator. Every school has one on their page, and we'll talk about towards the end. But just in case I forget to tell you this little piece, you want to go on that net price calculator, because it will kind of give you an idea of how much money you will have left to pay towards the tuition, room and board, or the bill. Okay. And so you want to just make sure that you pay attention to that ahead of time. So that doesn't mean that you want to take the school off the list if you see that it's too expensive, but I at least want you to get an idea of what you're working with, because most of the time people don't really find out or even pay attention to what they have to pay until the very, very end. So you really want to do that first, just so you can have a frame of mind of what you need to do. Okay. Last night, we talked about the college application process as far as what we do at Norristown. Okay, so you definitely want to go back and look at that process as far as what your responsibility is as your family, what my responsibility is as the college and career counselor, and what your counselor's responsibility is in the whole process, and how to do what's called college fit. College fit is really the most important part, because you want to make sure that the college that you pick has some things that are ideal for you. And so you want to use the acronym called SLAM, SLAM, and that stands for social, location, academics, and money. Okay, because a lot of people pick schools and they don't even know if their major is there. You want to look if the money's a fit, you want to look to make sure that the location is a fit, and you want to make sure that the social life is a fit. So you want to go back and watch that video as well. So tonight we are going to talk about money exclusively. Okay, so I am going to share my screen, and again, if you guys came in, just remember that this is being recorded, and you guys can drop any questions or anything like that that you have in the chat. Okay, so just feel free to drop things in the chat. All right, so we're going to talk about financial aid. So very quickly, these are some screens that I shared last night. There's my email address. I'm on Instagram every day, so that's my handle. Seniors and juniors, you have a Schoology account. There may be some random 10th graders on here. And so there will be a lot of information disseminated via Schoology and Instagram. And so you can use those two links. So you can just take a picture of that if you want to, but again, this will be sent to you. And then of course we have a YouTube page. And once again, I forgot to put the website here on the site, but I'm going to go in here. Let me stop sharing my screen quickly because I saved the link. because I knew I would need it. So let me get this for you. And actually, am I still, let me just share my screen real quick. Copy. And we're going to paste this right in the chat for you. So this is the website for the College and Career Center. If you're not on Instagram or social media or anything like that, most of the information will be here, okay? So the homepage just has some basic information about the College and Career Center. There's another tab, colleges that accept our students. So this is the top 10 from last year. And these are colleges that maybe our students have been accepted to for the last 2 years or so. There's information in here about the counseling office, the grade breakdown of each counselor. There have been some adjustments and some tweaks. So some of you that you may have a new counselor, okay? So just take a look at this, but you'll get this information. And before I forget, we won't be talking about schedules tonight. You will get some type of an email from the assistant principal about the schedule, but we won't be able to talk about it tonight because I don't really know anything except that it's not ready yet, okay? And so these are some of the breakdowns. You guys shouldn't have anybody down here because these are 9th graders, and unless there's a Roosevelt student here, this is the counselor, Ms. Sedgwick for Roosevelt. The school profile, this is something that we talked about last night. So you want to go back to the video and find out why the school profile is important. Colleges use this when they're assessing your transcript. This is going to be the most important page, the upcoming events page. So anything that if you want to know is going on and you need a link or anything like that, it will be here. So there is a virtual college fair that's coming up and it starts this Sunday. All right. There's some financial aid information on here, but I need to clean up this page. Countdown to graduation timetable for each grade of high school. And then here is the application process actually here. So your counselors will meet with you and give you this information in small groups, but it's right here. So you don't even have to wait, okay? So I gave you guys that link. I also want to give you guys this link just so I won't have to switch back. This is the link to my link tree. And basically what this is anything that requires any type of registrations at some point, they will be on this link tree. But this link tree is also on my website. And if it's not there, I will put it there. So if you need to make an appointment with me, you literally just click here. And this syncs up to my Gmail calendar. If there's blue, that means that there's availability. For the months of September, October, and November, you're really not going to be able to make any appointments on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays unless there is not a college visit. So you may see that there's only like a 7:30, and that's why. But Mondays and Wednesdays are wide open. So you literally just pick a time, confirm it, put your information in here. Students, if you're going to be in school, of course, you're going to click College and Career. Parents and guardians, if you want to meet via Google, phone, or Zoom, you just click it and put it in. And that's that, okay? So that's easy. So you can go in and make an appointment at any time. And most of you guys that are on here, I've worked with before. You can make as many appointments as you want. And then here's a questionnaire that I would like you guys to fill out. You don't have to, but this questionnaire will help you kind of put together the best list for you based off of some financial aid needs that you may or may not have, based off of some personal circumstances that you may or may not have. Now, I'm not going to be asking you for your blood type and all that kind of stuff, but there will be some questions on there about maybe if you live with your grandmom or if you're a foster student, you know, those types of things, because there are special programs or special allotments on your FAFSA application that may, you know, give you some more money, or there may be some schools that have some special programs that will help you, okay? So those are all the links that I'm going to share with you guys. So we're going to go back to the presentation. We saw that. That's the breakdown of your counselors. And then we talked about the senior survey. So we are making good time. All right. So we're going to talk about money matters. So if you guys can do me a favor and drop in the chat, what are your concerns or thoughts about money for college? What are your concerns or thoughts about money for college? Please drop that in the chat. What are your thoughts or concerns about money for college? And I know the chat can be a little bit slow, or maybe you guys don't have any thoughts and concerns about money. I doubt that seriously. Okay, so we have student loans, and some comments may come in private. I can see them. If you guys want to put them publicly, you can, or you can do privately, that's okay. The cost and how much financial aid that you get. Yep. Anyone else? Okay, so some of the comments are still coming in, but money, it does matter, right? And so when you guys are applying for applications and all that kind of stuff in October, on October the 1st, is step number 1 of your financial aid process. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put together what's called an FSAID, or Federal Student Aid ID. Okay, and we have another comment that came in about the question that we had earlier. I don't know if I'll make enough to pay for classes and also the cost of student loans. That's a big one. Okay, so when you guys are filling out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, that application will allow you to be able to put some information in there. And from the information that you put in, it will determine if you are eligible for any federal loans, which is money that you do have to pay back, or state and federal grants, which is money that you don't have to pay back. So anytime you hear the word grant or scholarship, those are good words. Grants and scholarships are good words, and they should make you happy. Loans will give you, what does commercial say, heartburn, upset stomach. I'm not going to say the D word, but you guys have seen the commercial. But sometimes loans can cause that angst in us, okay? And so, but some people think that they make too much money to be able to get any aid. You really don't know. Worst case scenario, you will be eligible for government loans. So of course, no one wants a loan, but the government loans are actually better than the private loans. The interest rates will be lower than a bank, like if you go to Wells Fargo or PNC Bank or Citizens Bank. And also, you will have different options to repay the loan. Even after you borrow, they have different options that you can choose. When you go to a bank, whatever terms you set up, you either pay on those terms or you can pay it off early. Those are your only 2 options. So that doesn't mean that you have to take the loan, but you can just see if you're eligible for the loan, and you can use that option if you need it, okay? So someone says, are there any changes to the process this year because of COVID? So are you asking about like financial aid or just in general about the changes? So as far as I know, yeah, there are no changes to financial aid due to COVID. It's still going to open on October the 1st, when you guys can actually fill out this FAFSA application and the state grant application, and they still have due dates. They kept to all the dates last year, so they're going to keep to all the dates this year as well. So I will be going to a workshop on September the 10th. So if anything changes, I'll shoot you guys an email, but I doubt anything will change because they didn't change last year. Okay, so when you guys open up your FAFSA application, you have to create an FSAID, and that's the Federal Student Aid ID. So the student needs an ID and the parent needs an ID. So the only person that's a parent that can create an ID is a person that is a biological parent, okay? So when you start trying to figure out if you're living with your grandmom, or if you're living with your auntie, or you are in foster care, or some other situation that you may have, then you may be considered what's called an independent student, and you will be able to fill out the form just by yourself. So you would have a conversation with me or your counselor, and we can kind of figure out that situation. But the majority of you will have two IDs, one for the student and one for the parent, okay? Now, so you don't need two parent IDs, you just need one, okay? And so you're gonna create this ID. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes it's a little weird and it takes longer than it should, but you want to do that first. And so basically what this ID is a username and a password that you can use for your account. And then later, if you borrow any more money, sometimes the loans come from different sources. You can have all of those put into one account. So you don't have to keep, create different username and passwords for everything, okay? So that's step number 1, is to create this ID. Okay, so again, this opens in October 1st. If you have any older siblings that, went to school like 10 years ago, they're gonna tell you that it opens up in January. Oh Lord, did I do this again? Are you showing a presentation? Do you guys see my screen tonight?
No.
What happened? It did this again yesterday. So you guys didn't see a PowerPoint at all?
Just the questionnaire.
Okay. Do you see anything now? Do you see anything now?
Now I
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wonder why that happened again. You didn't really miss anything. This was the only screen that you missed. So this is the step 1, to create the FSA ID, okay? Then it opens October 1st. So if you have any older siblings or older cousins that want to sit there and give you the whole scoop about what to do, they're going to tell you that this opens in January. That's the old FAFSA. This opens in October, on October the 1st. So let me go back to your question though, about are there any changes with financial aid? There are some slight changes, but they really don't relate to you guys. There are 2 questions that 2 items that they're going to take off of the FAFSA and or let students take advantage of. So they have a question on there for students that are planning, not planning on going to the military, but there's a question that asks you that you have to do selective service. So usually males, they want you to sign up for selective service on this. So they took that off. Secondly, there was another thing on there with students that have been incarcerated, that they're not able to take out any loans. And so there have been some changes with that. So there's only those 2 things. Now, there was another big change that was supposed to happen next fall, but that's going to get pushed back another year. So the FAFSA will be changing, but it has nothing to do with COVID. They change it, I guess, every 10 years or so. So there are a lot of questions on the FAFSA. They're going to knock the questions down to 36 questions and a whole bunch of other things. So by the time you guys, I think, are entering your next year, when you're going into your sophomore year, the FAFSA will change for you, okay? But this is going to open October 1st. And as soon as it opens, you really want to start filling this thing out. Okay. Now we will have a financial aid night on October the 12th, which is a Tuesday. And I'll give you information about that. That was what we discussed last night. So it's going to be October the 12th. Tuesday is probably going to be from 6 to 8. There's going to be an English session and a Spanish section. Not quite sure if it's going to be in person or virtual or not. Last year we did have it virtually. Then on Tuesday, October the 26th, we will have a FAFSA completion night. And so we have some people from Montco coming over to help students complete the FAFSA. Okay, so you can bring all your paperwork with you. If you're like me and you want somebody to sit by you and you know, look over your shoulder. So people will be here for that night, but you can definitely get started on your own. And so once you finish the application, you're going to go ahead and submit that application. Okay. So you're going to log into the FAFSA with your student ID. You're going to say that you're the student. You're going to put your FSA ID information in there. Then when you finish the application, and I need you guys to write this down, even if you need to put this on your refrigerator to remember. The next step, when you finish your FAFSA application, there's going to be a notification, a box that pops up on the bottom, and it's going to give you two choices. One choice is, do you want to add another student? Because some of you have another sibling that is in school. Or do you want to do your state grant application? You want to click the button that says, I want to do my state grant application. Because what will happen is when you push that button, it's going to populate all of your information over to the state grant so that you don't have to type in little small stuff. Otherwise, if you don't do it at that time and you close it out and go back to it, they're going to make you wait like 3 to 5 days or 5 to 7 days to actually fill out the state grant application. And the state grant application only takes about 5 or 10 minutes to fill out. So what's going to happen if you guys have to wait 5 to 7 days? Drop that in the chat. What will most likely happen in those 5 to 7 days? Tell me, please. Or you can unmute yourself because our group is small today. What do you think is going to happen if you don't fill it out right away? Other kids will have a better chance at the grant than you. No, actually, no, they won't have a better chance. Now, if you wait until like March or May to fill it out, maybe. I mean, just anything. You're gonna forget. You're gonna forget. Okay, so you want to make sure that you fill it out right away. And so that's the easiest and best time for you to do that. And so the state grant application takes about 10 minutes. So also, let me go backwards a step. When you guys are setting up an FSAID account, these are some things that you need to set it up. One, you have to have a social security number. And you need to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. So if you are a student and you are not a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, then you will not be able to complete the FAFSA. Okay, so what we would have to do is to get in contact with the colleges to let them know that you're not able to complete that FAFSA. Okay, now if you are a student and you are a U.S. Resident or a permanent resident, but your parent is not a citizen or a permanent resident, you can still complete the FAFSA and you can still complete your parents' information, but they will not be able to create an FSAID because you have to have a social. So what will happen at the end of your application, and again, we'll talk about this again because we're going to have the meetings. And then when I sit down to help you, we'll talk about it again. But if your parent or guardian is not a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, then when you finish putting in all of the information, then what you're going to do is print out a form on the FAFSA. It's called a signature sheet. And then they're going to have to sign it and you have to mail that in. And sometimes that takes a while. So that's the other reason why you guys want to try to get on it as soon as possible, because y'all know the mail is really slow right now. I don't know why. Somebody sent me something in December and I still have not received it. So I'm thinking that somebody has my gift card by now, right? But the mail is really slow now, and it's just slow, period, when it comes to processing paperwork instead of electronics. So you guys want to make sure Sorry, I muted myself. So you want to make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to mail this stuff, okay? I mean, to get this done. So when you finish your FAFSA, there's a possibility that you may be selected for what's called verification, okay? I'm sorry, let me go backwards. When you finish your FAFSA, they're going to give you a message or a notification pretty much right away. It's going to be in your email. And they may tell you what your EFC number is right away. And so your EFC number is called your expected family contribution. And just on a side note, this EFC thing is always very confusing. And so when the new FAFSA does come out in 2 years, they're going to get rid. Hold on. If everybody can make sure that you mute yourself, that would be great. They're going to make sure that they get rid of the EFC number. And so what is going to be called now is the SAI number, okay? So just if everybody can make sure that you are muted. I'm trying to mute some people, but it's not letting me mute you. All right. So the EFC number, or your expected family contribution number, is a number that the government comes up with after they look at all of the information that you have submitted to determine how much money they expect your family to contribute towards your education. So it's not how much it's going to cost or how much you're going to have to pay, but what they expect you to be able to pay, which can be very confusing. So your number could be as low as a 0, which means that they're not expecting you to contribute anything towards your education, but you're still going to get a bill. But when a college sees that you have a 0 EFC, then their job is to try to give you as much school aid on top of all of the other aid that you could be eligible for, okay? So I'm gonna pause right here to see if anybody has any questions about that part, because I talk about this all the time, and so I don't wanna assume that you understood everything that I just said. So you can drop that in the chat, or you can actually unmute yourself if you want to. Okay, so you can still drop it in the chat. If it pops in there, then I'll answer your question, okay? So when you get this, they're gonna determine how much, again, money you're eligible for in loans, in state grant money, and federal grant money. And then they're also going to see if you're eligible for what's called work study, okay? Which basically means that you have a job on campus. So they'll give you a little sheet like this in your email. And so basically there's a booklet that you can download. I think this one is the old one. I need to put an updated one, but this is pretty kind of close. So when they're putting together your award information for your average tuition and fees, here's your parents' annual income that was reported on the FAFSA. So basically, this is just a rough guide. If your income is under $25,000 as a parent unit at a 4-year college, then this means that you're eligible for this much money in state grant money, from $500 to $4,100. So again, this is from 2019-20. So I think this number is now up to about $4,300 or $4,500. And so as you see, as your income goes up, it may change. Okay, you get 99%, then it goes to 94%. Then once you hit that magical $75,000, and that's when the amount of aid that you could be eligible for goes down. Okay, and also the amount of aid that you get is connected to the type of school that you will be attending. So if you attend a private college, and so remember from our conversation last night, private colleges, the tuition is much, much higher because the state is not giving the school money to cut down on the cost. So the money that the state is giving the school and the money that the state is giving you in grants are two totally different pots of money, okay? So if you're going to a state school like a Kutztown, a East Stroudsburg, IUP or Edinburgh, then you're going to get less money in state grants because the tuition is less. If you're going to a state-related school like Temple, like the University of Pittsburgh, like Lincoln University, and what is the other school? So we said Lincoln, Pittsburgh University, Temple, and I'm forgetting one, or maybe that was 4. Let me know if I forgot one. So that is going to be a little bit more than the state. When if you're going to a community college, you're going to get less because the tuition is less. So this is just kind of a rule of thumb that you can kind of take a look at. And I can share a link to this to you as well. So I see that there was something in the chat. Okay, somebody put community colleges. Can you give me a little bit more detail about that? And you can get state aid and federal aid for community college if you're going to a business, trade, and technical school. So they have that down here as well. So just a rule of thumb, once your income goes above $75,000, that's when you start getting less aid. Even though us folks that make $75,000, $100,000, we think, you know, the government is trying to say that we make a lot of money, but that's not true either, because people got bills. Okay. Okay. So I was asking about the aid. So I just, okay. All right, cool. Okay. All right. Step number 4. This is the part that stresses some people out. Okay. Some of you may be randomly selected for what's called verification. And so what's going to happen is that after you submit your FAFSA, the government or the school may want to verify information that you put on that FAFSA. And so what they're going to do is send you a document, whether it's in email or in the mail, that's about 13 pages. And you're going to get stressed out thinking that you did something wrong. And in some cases, you didn't do anything wrong. They want you to check, double check, and make sure that everything you put there was correct, or maybe they will ask you for some paperwork. So these are the items that they most likely will ask you for. So if I were you, when you do your FAFSA and they're asking you for your bank account information, like how much money do you have saved in your checking account or your savings account, what you probably want to do is to do a screenshot or make sure that you download a copy of your bank report for that month, because they're going to go by the date that you filed that FAFSA. They may ask you for that. Okay. They also may ask you for what's called a tax transcript. And so a tax transcript basically is a document confirming that you did or did not file taxes, because some people say that they did not file their taxes and they did. So they want to get that from you. So you can actually go to the IRS website. Let me see if this works. Yep. So you're going to go to the IRS website and you have a choice of either requesting an online packet or getting it in the mail, filling it out and putting it in the mail. You can do it online if you want to. It's supposed to be quicker and happens pretty much right away, but I have not really had too much success with students that have actually been able to get it done online. So in most cases, you will have to request it by mail, but it is free. So if I were you, I would just go ahead and do that and get that out of the way. So if they need your tax transcript, you have it and it doesn't slow anything down, okay? All right, now you guys able to see my slide again? Because I know my computer's been trying to do magical things the last 2 days. Is it back up? All right, cool. The second thing they're probably going to ask you is for a copy of your W-2s. So for students that have a job or have had a job, that little paper that your job will either email you or give you in the mail, maybe around, they have to give it to you by January the 31st. That's your W-2 form. It has a summary of how much money you made the year before, how much money they took out in taxes, and some other stuff. All right. And then the last core thing that they usually ask you for when they verify is a copy of your actual tax return to make sure that you did that correctly. So what I will also highly recommend that you do, and please write this down, because this will actually reduce the chances of you being selected for verification dramatically. So when you're going into the FAFSA and you get to the part where you have to submit your tax information, you're going to see a button called the IRS Data Retrieval Tool, the IRS Data Retrieval Tool. And what that is a link to the IRS. And so when you click on that button, it's going to take you to the IRS website, and it's going to allow you to pull your FAFSA, your tax return from the IRS and put that information into your FAFSA. And that way, one, you don't have to worry about typing in the wrong information in the wrong box, because that happens a lot, or sometimes a parent or a student may mix up their information and put the student's information in the parent section and the parent's income in the student section. That happens sometimes. If you use that button, you can make sure that it's done accurately. And since it's coming from the government, they know that you didn't cheat and you didn't mistype. You didn't have what they call fat fingers and type something incorrectly. But the other thing you want to make sure, so students can use the IRS data retrieval tool and the parent can use the IRS data retrieval tool. There's only one caveat for you parents. In order for you to use the IRS data retrieval tool, you either need to be, if you're married, then you have to file a joint tax return. So if you are married and both of you file your taxes separately, then you cannot use the data retrieval tool. Or if you are a parent and you are single, then you can use it, okay? And also, just to go backwards, for this year's FAFSA and the ones since they changed to October 1st, whoever the student lives with 51% of the time is the parent whose information is being asked for. So if you are the person that the student lives with 51% of the time, it doesn't go about who claims who, but when they change to the new FAFSA, from what I'm hearing, they're going to go back to who claims the student. But for right now, for your class, who claims who has nothing to do with anything. It's who you live with 51% of the time. So if your parent is not married, let's say you live with your mom and your dad, but they're not married. They're going to, and you live in, I'm sorry, if your parent is remarried, they are going to ask for the other person's tax information, okay? So you want to make sure that you do submit that. Now, if your parent has a boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever that lives with them, but they're not married, that other person does not have to submit their tax information because they're not considered a parent. The other person in the other household does not have to submit the information. It's just the person that you live with 51% of the time. So I want to make sure I didn't get that confused or confuse anybody. So does anyone have any questions about that part? I want to make sure I explain that correctly. Okay, I don't see anything yet, so I'm going to keep going. All right. Now, this is the other reason why you want to do these things early. When you do your FAFSA early, you do your FIA early. And so you're going to be able to put up to 10 schools on your list. Once you submit your form, that information gets sent to every school that you put on the list. Doesn't mean that you're going to go to that school. It's just what's on the list. Once you are accepted, they're going to put together what's called a financial aid award letter, but you will not get that right away. So some of you who are going to do, from what we talked about last night, an early application an early action application or early decision application, or you just are applying early, you actually, some schools may give you an award letter in December or January, but most of your letters will not come until March, February or March. Some schools are giving them a little bit earlier. So please, if you get a letter from a school, a financial aid letter in December or January, don't think that the other schools are slacking, because the old deadline was that we originally opened in January and you got your letters in March. So they're still on that old timeline and they're not changing it. So that's why you want to get them early, so that you can get all of your letters back by March or April and then have time to really look them over. Now, all of your financial aid letters will look different because all schools are different. And so if any of you want to make an appointment to see me, to see your counselor, to go over those letters, to see which ones are a good deal or not, we can most definitely do that as you get them, or if you want to put all of them together. But it's really important that we have conversations, because there are always some students that don't talk to us about it, and they end up not going to school in the fall because they ended up picking a school that they didn't realize was just too expensive for them. It wasn't in their budget because they didn't consider some things. I just talked to somebody today that I thought was in school, and they're not in school today because there was some discrepancies with their bill. So they're going to be trying to go back later. So I just don't want that to be you. Now, if you choose not to go back because you don't want to go at that moment, that's a totally different situation. But you have to drop this deposit, so that student is not getting that deposit back because it's non-refundable. So what happens a lot is that some of you guys are going to get accepted to your first choice. You're all excited. You're on Instagram, on TikTok. You have on your Villanova hat, your Villanova sweatshirt, blue lipstick. You know, you have Villanova everything all over the place. And then you get that bill, and Villanova might not be it for you, right? And so you've already dropped that deposit, and you might not end up going to Villanova. You may end up going to Scranton, or you may end up going to East Stroudsburg. You may end up going to University of Penn, because even though the University of Penn is very expensive, they give out really good aid depending on what your finances are. But you want to make sure that you go over those letters and make sure to see who's giving you the best deal, because your first choice might not be the school that's giving you the best deal. Okay. Now, all schools are supposed to give you until May 1st to make a decision and drop your deposit. But there's been a slight change in those rules, and there are some schools that may try to get you to pay that deposit before May 1st, but I would probably say 95% of them are going to stick to that May 1st deadline. Okay, so that way I don't want you to rush. And if you do this earlier, then you have time to make an informed decision and not a pressure decision. Okay, because you're only going to go to one school. So you want to, and there's no such thing as the perfect choice or the perfect school. There are a number of good fits for you if you put your list together well. So like we said last night, if you don't see yourself going to a particular school, it should not be on your list, because there is a possibility that if you rank your schools from 6 to 12, you may end up going to the school that's number 5 or 6 on your list. And sometimes what we find with students is that they really only want to go to the first choice or the second choice. The other ones were just some trash options that they threw on just so that we can stop bothering them, just so that you can stop bothering them, but they have no intentions of going there. Okay. And so you want to make sure that this is a real option for you. Okay. So when you make those deposits, they can range between $150 to $1,000. In most cases, it's going to be around $200 and $250. So that's another reason why you really want to pay attention to that, because you don't get that money back. Okay. So you may have a general deposit, and then you also may have one for a dorm. Now, sometimes what schools do is they send you these letters that say, hey, we accepted you. And we want you to submit your your deposit so that we can make sure that you've reserved your space in that dorm that you want to stay in. And so you feel like if I don't drop this deposit, I'm going to not have any housing. Most colleges have to guarantee freshman housing. Now, it might not be in that best dorm that you wanted to pick. It may not be with the person that you wanted to pick, but they have to guarantee you housing. So don't let that letter that they get sway you and push you, because if you had to do it by a certain date, it would say it on the letter. Again, these are business people, okay? Are there any questions about this one? And I'll just keep looking in the chat. Okay. Step 6, you want to keep checking your email because there may be some other verification or some kind of other paperwork after you have paid your deposit through when it's time to actually go to school. And there are some people who don't make it to the school in the fall because they haven't been checking their email. And that's why we suggested yesterday, and I don't know if it was yesterday or maybe it's on one of my slides for tonight, that you guys create an email address that is used for college applications, okay? And so that way it's 2 people that are checking to make sure that you're not missing mail, because you're gonna get a lot of mail. So that way you don't wanna use your personal email address, okay? So, you just wanna make sure that you check, because they're gonna send you random things in your email, okay? So we talked about this already, so I'm going to talk about this very quickly. The Pell Grant, that's the federal state grant that we were talking about. I mean, the federal grant that you can get up to $6,300. Some of you who your income may be lower and you need some extra help, you can get something called the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. That's up to $4,000. And so I've seen students get maybe $1,000 too. I haven't seen anyone get 4. Most students that I see that get this is $1,000 or $2,000. Then you have your Pennsylvania State Grant. So this was that little grid that I showed you guys, okay? And so that's how much you can get in these different categories of schools. Now, for those of you who are saying, I'm going out of town, I'm getting as far away from Norristown as I can because I want to get out of Pennsylvania. That's lovely. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But please just keep in mind that when you go out of state, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, if you go out of state and you go to a public institution out of state, you're going to have to pay out of state tuition. That's number 1. Number 2, you're not going to get your state grant money because that state grant money is only for you if you stay in Pennsylvania. Now, we do have 5 states that we have a relationship with, and it's Delaware, DC, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, and Vermont, and you will get a maximum of $578. So I'm not telling you to not go out of state. I'm just saying that you need to be informed. Now, there are some colleges that do try to compensate and give out-of-state people a little bit more money, but colleges really make some of their money off of out-of-state students. So that could go either way. So just keep that in mind, okay? And then here are the loan amounts that you could be offered when you do your FAFSA. So you can get up to $5,500 in federal loans. And then parents can also be offered something called the Parent Plus loan. And so what the Parent Plus loan does is cover the gap that's left over on your bill after they give you these things and maybe some grants or scholarships from the school, okay? Now you can get all of these. Some of you may get the $6,300 and the $2,000 and the $3,800 and the $5,500 in loans. So some of you may be offered all of these things. But parents, I need you to listen right now. Some of these schools will try to make up the difference by giving you what's called a Parent Plus loan. And those Parent Plus loans are high. They're like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Okay. And so what I want you to remember or to know, because there's always this pressure that a parent is supposed to give students money for college, that you are responsible for making their dreams come true. Back in the day when I was in school, like in the 90s, it was a little bit easier to do that because tuition was much, much less. There were a little bit more options with financial aid. And also people could use the equity in their houses and some other options to pay for school and put money back. Those days are gone, okay? The cost of school is astronomical. So students, your parents may not be able to pay this whole bill or a lot of it. And I don't want you to get upset with them. They have not failed you, and it's not their fault. The cost of college is ridiculous, and it has not, the cost of living and how much money parents make in general has not caught up with how much it costs to go to school. And so that's why it's your job to make sure that you fill out as many scholarship applications as you can, that you look for your own, and that there will be some that I give you guys, applications that I give you, that you fill them out. That is your part. Okay, so that's another reason why I want you guys to look at that net price calculator before you even get started with the whole college thing, because a lot of times parents and students don't have a conversation about money until it's time to make this deposit. And then the sadness comes. The clouds come, the lightning comes. It's just a sad day because people are not having a conversation. And so sometimes parents say, I'm just going to make it work. But you don't even know what it is that you're making work, right? If you go buy a car, if you go buy a house, you know exactly how much it's going to cost. And whoever is helping you buy the car or whoever is helping you buy the house can break down and tell you everything that you need to do. College is not an exact science. So communication with you guys is key. So parents, I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So in our session back in May, we went over this slide. So if you were with us before, this is a repeater. So when you look at the cost of attendance, that is tuition, that's how much the education costs. The room, that's where you're staying. The board, that means eating, and fees. So that is the cost of attendance. And just remember that that cost is a sticker price. Most people don't pay the exact sticker price, okay? So then you have the cost of attendance minus school aid. That's grants, loans, and scholarships. And then whatever is left over is called the gap. That's how much you have to pay in cash, loans, and outside scholarships, okay? So some of you guys don't want to talk to your students about money. And I understand it. I'm a parent. I'm like, that's none of your business. You don't need to know how much money I'm making. Because sometimes it can be a very uncomfortable conversation. And sometimes students don't really know what that means anyway, right? But I'm thinking that you guys maybe can start talking about what is your budget for college? How much do you think you can pay towards the tuition each month or per semester? So maybe that's the conversation that you need to have. So let's look at these examples, okay? So let's say that when you get that Parent Plus loan and or you have a gap of $20,000. And just to go backwards, when it has Parent Plus loan, that's the gap. Gap and Parent Plus loans is usually the same thing, okay? So if you have a $20,000 gap, you're going to pay your tuition by semester. So that means you will be paying $10,000 per semester. And so if you decide you want to do a payment plan, you have to pay approximately a $35 fee, make a deposit, and then they're going to split your payments up to 4 to 5 payments for the semester. So if you're going to do a payment plan for $20,000, that means that you need to come up, let's say you drop down $1,000 deposit. You're going to come up with $2,250 per month for 5 payments, or 25 payments of $2,200. Okay? If your gap is $15,000, that means you're going to owe $7,500 per semester. With the payment plan, with a $1,000 deposit, you're going to be paying $1,300 in 5 payments. If you have a $10,000 gap, this is the one that I see the most at our school, between 10 and 15, okay? You're going to be paying $5,000 a semester. And with the payment plan with a $1,000 deposit, that's $800 a month. $800 for 5 payments. So maybe the conversation that you want to have is this way: how much can I pay per month on a payment plan, or how much can we pay towards the semester? So that's, again, another reason why you want to look at that net price calculator before you even get started. And so when you look at the net price calculator, even if the price does look like it's outrageous, don't take that school off the list if it fits for your son or daughter, because again, you don't know how much money in merit aid or grants that they may offer you, and you might be pleasantly surprised. But at least if you have this conversation, you have a plan. Okay, now I'm going to start talking faster because I kind of ad-libbed a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be said, but there's a whole bunch more. Okay, and remember, you guys can drop your questions in the chat. All right. 5 things that you should consider when you are receiving scholarships from the college. Because what colleges do is they pad or front load your financial aid letter if they do give you scholarships and grants from the school. That's called institutional aid. We want to ask these questions, and you can email them, and you are not being rude because you are the client, okay? Is this scholarship renewable? Meaning, am I going to get this same scholarship every year, or am I just going to get this scholarship this year? How much is the tuition? Because sometimes they don't put that on the bill. And so you have to go scurry through all the website pages to find out how much the tuition is, okay? Is the deposit amount per school year or semester? The fee for the payment plan is one time, but the deposit, that will be per semester. Okay, so that plan that I showed you guys was for the semester. So this might even be, yeah, you're right, my numbers might be off a little bit, but you get the concept. You put your $1,000, 45 payments, yeah, per semester. So I broke that down into halves, okay? All right. Will this scholarship, will it be taken away from any other monies that I have received? This is something that you want to ask your school. You want to ask them, are you going to stack or displace my scholarships? Because what some schools do is, if you get a lot of outside scholarships and you bring them in, you're all proud of yourself because you got all this money, and they offered you some money and they see you have all this scholarship money, they're going to take some of it back and give it to another student. As shady and as foul as that seems, that's what some schools do. And they can do that if they want to. So most of them do allow you to stack it, but you want to ask them those questions, and you want to ask them very specific questions. And again, you're not being rude because you are the client and they're used to people asking the question. And if you feel rude asking, just tell me. I have no problem emailing them. I'll do it with my Southern smile, but I'll get an answer for you, okay? You want to find out if it's renewable. Some of you guys that are going to some Pennsylvania state schools like East Stroudsburg, Kutztown, Mansfield, some of them have this old scholarship called the Board of Governors Scholarship. Some of them may call it something different. When we get back to school, if those are some of the schools that you're thinking about applying to, ask me. I have a running spreadsheet because I'm asking colleges questions, but they have full tuition scholarships. So for those of you whose grades are above a 3.6, 3.7, you have a high chance of getting one of those Board of Governors scholarships, because most of the state schools do instant decision days with us, which means that they're going to come and do interviews on the spot. So that once they have met you and they like you, we're talking about those Board of Governors scholarships in that meeting. Okay. And so that's just another option for you to have. Okay. And then here's some scholarship sites. I'll give you a link with all that stuff on there later. So in review of all the 3 sessions that we've had that have touched little bits and pieces about money, these are some things that you want to make sure that you do. You want to diversify your school list, meaning that you want to put 6 to 12 schools on your list, and you want to have a mix of private, public, state-related, and a community college on your list for strategy purposes, because you don't know what your financial aid package is going to look like. You want to consider a community college as an option, okay? So my daughter, Miss Mitchell, the college and career counselor, my daughter had Montco on the list. And what we did was we had her sign up for the honors program at Montco because she had really good grades. If you get accepted to the honors program, they do have 25 scholarship spots, and you go to Montco for free. So my daughter got one of those scholarship spots, not because I'm me, because nobody knew me at Montco at that time. That was our backup plan because she wanted to go somewhere else. So she ended up getting a partial scholarship at East Stroudsburg, but if she did not get that partial scholarship, she was going to go to the honors program at Montco. So you might want to check that out. You want to get local scholarships. Those are the gold mine scholarships. And so juniors, or I'm sorry, y'all are seniors now. Y'all have been emailing me about this Money Grab Monday that we had before we went on the quarantine. So we will have it. I got permission today, and I think I can give you guys snacks. So what it is Money Grab Monday starts up in January. And it's a scholarship study hall that we have all day on Monday. So we have tea, coffee, snacks. You can get passes from your teachers. You come down, you can pick up some applications. You can take them with you. You can sit down there, fill them out. I have my Apple Music playlist that I don't really use that much. Y'all can pick what you want to hear. We got nice little music in there, and we just have a nice time filling out scholarship applications. But those local scholarships, you are competing against less people. So you want to fill out as many of those as you can. And I'm going to tell you that most students don't fill them out. It's always the same 5 or 6 students, but that's okay. Take all their money. All right. So just look out for that. You want to see if you fill out those your regular college applications early, submit them before Thanksgiving, you will get a jump on the merit scholarships that colleges give out based off of your grades, your test scores, if you choose to submit your test scores, and your extracurricular activities and some other factors. So they start running out of that money in the spring. So the earlier you get your application in, you can get some of that money. You want to review the net price calculator on each school's website, okay? I'll give you, let me see if I can give you guys the link for that. Because my computer is not allowing me to be great. I'm just going to give you guys the link, but that is to the College Board, and it gives you an explanation of what the net price calculator is. I don't have time to go through that whole thing, but it'll give you that explanation. So we talked about the FAFSA, the CSS profile. Some of you guys are going to be applying to private colleges, and there are about 250 across the country that ask for the college scholarship service. And so it's another financial aid application that asks more intrusive questions. So you will have to complete that. Okay. We talked about this already. You can try to negotiate some of your award letters that you get back from schools. Of course, you can't say so-and-so gave me this. Why can't you give me that? Because everybody's different. But you can have conversations with colleges because, again, with the tax return that you turn in, you're going to submit the 2020 tax return. Some things may have happened since you did that tax return, and your money might be funny, right? So you can have those conversations with them. You want to decide how much in loans, if any, you will accept. There's no need for you guys to take on unnecessary debt. So just because they're quote unquote offering you $5,500 in loans doesn't mean that you need to take all of it. If you can scrape up a little bit extra to pay towards your bill, then, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and take the loans because I don't have to give up my money. But remember, you're paying interest on that. Okay. So we can have those conversations with you. You want to decide if you're going to stay on campus or commute. That's a real question. And so we talked about this last night. So for those of you, we also want you to put on that list of 6 to 12 schools, you want to put at least 2 schools that you can commute to. We talked about that gap, right? The average gap that I see for you guys at Norristown is between $10 and $1,200. You know, that's going to be a hardship, meaning that you won't be able to go. Your room and board is going to be an average of $12,000 or $13,000. So in some cases, if you choose to commute, then you can go to that school. All right. So I want you to put at least 2 schools that you can commute to on that list. Okay. Decide if you want to go out of state. And once again, you want to have honest and open conversations about what your budget is going to be. Please don't keep this a secret until it's time to drop that deposit. Start talking about those things now, okay? Very quickly, and we're almost done. These are some key deadlines. So over the 3 dates, we've talked about these things. So if you're a student athlete, you need to go ahead and fill out the NCAA eligibility application. If that's you, you can just email me. We can get started on that. Your FAFSA opens in October. Your FIA opens in October. If you're planning on applying early action or early decision, these are some of the dates. And basically these 2 mean that you're going to apply early. Early action, there's no commitment. Early decision, there is a commitment. It is binding. And if financial aid is an issue, sometimes it might not be the best choice, but there's no way you can accidentally apply early decision because I have to sign off, or your counselor has to sign off on it, and your parent has to sign off on it. If you're going into some specialty program, make sure you check those deadlines first because it might not be the same as the school's deadline. And also, I don't believe in waiting to turn in the application until the deadline on January 15th or February 1st. We really want you guys to have all of your applications done by Thanksgiving, right? And it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, you just want to get it out of the way. You can focus on other things like your scholarship applications, like picking out your prom attire, like taking a nap, maybe 2 of them, right? Get that off of your plate. The other thing is, especially for those of you who are applying to Penn State and you're trying to go to main campus, their priority deadline has moved to November the 1st, okay? So just get that done early, okay? There we go, Thanksgiving right there. You're gonna get most of your financial aid letters between January and April. Most of those local scholarship applications will come out in January or June. I receive them. I post them on Schoology and a whole bunch of different places. Your students know where all that information is. The deadline for the FIA State grant is May 1st, but we're doing that way before. We're gonna do that right after we do that FAFSA. We talked about College Decision Day. We have to send a final transcript to all of your colleges after graduation. So I send them at the end of June. And then if you're going to a community college or a 2-year college, the FIA grant is due by August 1st. But again, we're doing that early, okay? All right, this is the last slide. So these are our family commandments. Thou shalt share the same email address for your applications and check your email regularly. Build and demonstrate interest for my top choices. And there's something in the chat here. Do we get award letters by email or mail? These days, mostly by mail, by email, but some random ones may come in the mail because sometimes some of the private colleges may send out an acceptance letter and an award letter together. But in most cases, it's going to be separate from your acceptance letter and it will be in email. So you want to build and demonstrate interest for my top choices, meaning for your top choices, you want to build that relationship with that college recruiter that's going to be reviewing your application, because if you build some synergy, they like some things about you, when it's time for them to start going through applications, they're going to bring your name up. They're going to look to see that you've been participating in online things and coming to their events and stuff like that. And for some schools, that is a factor. You want to discuss your finances as openly as possible. You want to have the student take the lead. Parents, please don't email me about all the stuff that the colleges need. Or back in the old days, we had paper applications, and some of my parents would be bringing in the applications for their students. I'm like, this is some really nice handwriting, nothing personal to some of the students. But have them do these things, because remember, when they're going to college, they're going to be considered the adult, and you won't be able to go on campus and talk to anybody about anything. They're going to have to do that. So they have to get the practice now doing that stuff. And they don't want you hovering over them anyway. So let's see here. If colleges already have your personal email address, is it still advisable to put a new one on your application? It's up to you. It's up to you. The main thing is if you can have a new email for your FAFSA, that would be good, because you're going to keep that one, forever. So it's up to you. And you can always ask them to change it too. Okay. Another question here. Okay. You want to be realistic in your college choices and choose the best fit for you. Now, when I say be realistic, if you have a 2.0 GPA, which is a C average, please don't come to me saying, we're going to fill out the application for me to go to Harvard and Princeton. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Now, I'm not going to stop you from filling it out, but seriously, that's not going to happen. So I'm not trying to be a hater. I just don't want to waste your time, right? So just be realistic about what you're putting on your list. Now, if you got a 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, you're trying to go for Harvard, shoot your shot, right? But let's be realistic. You want to make sure that you're looking at their numbers and seeing that your numbers are close to what they're looking for. Okay, we talked about commuting. Choose a major or a field that is a strength or interest to you. So make sure that that college either has your major or some other connections to some favorite subjects that you have. You want to write a student-authored essay. College admissions officers know when parents are writing essays. Let the students write those essays, okay? Thanksgiving, don't take on any unnecessary debt trying to go to some school because you promised them that you were going to make it work. Don't try to sit up and eat ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every night while your kid is at college having steak night once a month on Thursday. Now, if you choose to do that, you choose to do that. But remember, you're trying to retire in some years. You're trying to do some other things. So that's why, again, you guys want to fill out as many scholarship applications as you can, because we did have 4 students that got 4 rides this year. 1 to Penn State, which I rarely see that, 1 to Princeton, and 1 to the University of Texas, somewhere in Texas. 4 rides, those 4 students, okay? You want to make sure that you work together to ensure all parts of the application is complete. So students and parents, if the other party is getting on your nerves and stressing you out about this, just email me. I can be the referee, the mediator between the two of you, if they're getting on your nerves. So don't talk about college every single day with your student. Maybe just pick one day that you guys connect, because they're going to get sick of you talking, and you know how they tune you out. Y'all know, how we tune our parents out. All right, so it's already going to be a stressful enough time. So what I used to do, parents and students, just cover your ears up. When my daughter was in school, because I knew I was going to get on her nerves, I just called her counselor and emailed her counselor and told her what I needed to get done or what we needed to do. And then she talked to my daughter. She didn't even know. All right, so if you want to do that too, knock yourself out. Okay. I know I talked a lot about money and all kinds of stuff, but this is going to work out for you. And I always believe that you are going to be where you are supposed to be. That first choice or that second choice that you may have on your list might not be the place that you are supposed to go. All right. So we've been doing this. Your counselors and I have been doing this for a long time. So we got you. We're going to hold your hand. We're going to pat your shoulder, all of that good stuff. I'm gonna give you some great snacks in my room now. They said I'm going to Sam's Club tomorrow right after school. But guys, we got this. All right. It's going to be okay. And so that's it. So we have a few more minutes, right? And I'm going to stop my screen, stop sharing my screen, and just answer any questions that you guys may have. So you can put them in the chat. You can unmute yourself. If you do have a personal question that you don't want recorded, just kind of say that to the end when we turn the recording off. And then when we end the meeting, some of you may have like some one-on-one questions. I'll hang around for a little bit, okay? So do we have any questions? No questions? No way. This has to be the first time ever. I guess everybody's waiting for me to turn the recording off. Okay, here we go. So when should juniors start taking out SAT? That's a great question. So juniors generally will take, they used to have a January SAT and they got rid of that one. So the March SAT is the one that the juniors usually start working on. However, if your student has taken Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, maybe some pre-calculus, they can go ahead and maybe try to take the last one in this semester. So you guys are going to take the PSAT in October in school. So look at your scores and see how you do. And then you can take the one in March. So what I will tell you is do not take the SAT or the ACT back to back. Meaning if you're taking the May SAT, then don't take the June SAT, because in most cases your score will be exactly the same. The other thing is you don't get your score report back for like 4 weeks anyway. So by the time you get your score report back, you won't even be able to look over your report to see what you need to fix, all right, or what you need to really up your game on. So just don't do them back to back. Now you can take the ACT and the SAT back to back because they're two different tests, all right? But you want to go ahead and start doing that early. And again, for those of you who weren't here yesterday, even though I know most of these colleges are test optional, please take that test anyway, because some of you may score well and you may need those scores to get what's called merit aid from the school, okay? All right, what other questions do you have? Because if I don't hear any questions in the next 10 seconds, I'm assuming you're waiting for me to turn off the recording. So I'll turn that off. And then if you have some, we can ask them. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give my spiel to end the video and then I'll stick on for a little bit. So thank you guys for coming to part 3 of the college application crash course. And just make sure that you make an appointment to see me and or your counselor to get ready for this upcoming year. And I thank you for watching.